Hello. The topic today is about a ceasefire, a call for an Israeli ceasefire that I've been listening to all weekend. This is unprecedented in war, with, of course, the exception being Israel. Here's a quick question. Do you know who understands more than anyone about how Israel is going to respond to what happened on October 7th? Any guesses? Anyone? Yes, Hamas and the Palestinians. Here's a very quick timeline leading up for the first of many national calls for a ceasefire. On October 7th, the murdering, slaughtering over 1,400 innocent civilians starts up. Also, roughly 240 innocent civilians from multiple countries are taken as hostages. October 7th is the start date in Gaza for all the Palestinians in the north to get their asses quickly to the south. Why, you ask? Do they need to know this so soon? Well, everyone in Gaza, and I mean everyone, knows what's about to happen. October 13th, the IDF calls for all Gazans to leave their homes and to move south for their protection. Oh, of course, Egypt and Jordan aren't going to take any of them in, and no one seems to give a shit about that fact. Regardless, Israel is now given clear instructions. October 28th, ground invasion starts. So, the Gazan civilians have been given 3 weeks, yes, 3 weeks notice to leave, and 3 weeks after the civilian slaughter in Israel, Palestinians have had 21 days to head south and clear out northern Gaza. For some of you who don't know the area, Gaza at its longest is 25 miles, and at its longest width is a little bit under 8 miles. Point being, the Palestinians had more than enough time to leave. 3 weeks was way too long for Israel to start the ground invasion. Regardless, they did. Anyways, just 6 days later, on November 3rd, we are starting to hear calls for a ceasefire. 6 fucking days since a pregnant Israeli woman had her baby cut out of her stomach and killed in front of her before her death, and people are calling for a ceasefire. Again, all of this is just a quick timeline. Israel's had to deal with this kind of stuff for years, so. Now, here's my perspective regarding a ceasefire that I think everyone needs to understand and what's really going to happen. And this is not some make-believe bullshit that some of you supporting baby killers would hope for. We're starting to see some cracks in the U.S. politically, mainly because it hasn't gone so well with the Democratic Party over the last few years. And I think the party is listening to the polls ahead of what's doing the right thing. Biden was in Israel, a week or two ago? You would have thought by his speeches Israel was about to be the 51st state. Now, a week or two later, we're already starting to see turn down the rhetoric from Biden. It seems to me either Biden or his party is listening to the Arabs in this country a bit more than his conscience. Why does Biden give a shit if he's losing Muslim voters in this country because of his actions in Israel? I truly don't know. Unless the Democratic Party thinks American Muslims are going to vote for Trump in the next election. Yeah, so I give that a huge LOL. Ain't going to happen anyways. And it's a year away. American Arabs and Muslim voting percentage in the U.S. for Republicans is around 17%. People are fucking psychotic about their political parties and rarely, and I mean rarely, change when they get older. Point being, American Muslims threatening their voting stance on an issue that's a year away for a few days ceasefire right now is fucking laughable to how they are going to actually go to vote in 12 months. Anyway, again, ceasefire. There's been ceasefires in wars for maybe an hour or two to let different factions grab their fallen soldiers, but where else has a ceasefire been called upon by people around the world in around 6 days? Please list all the ceasefires that didn't end because the war was over. What does Israel, or frankly any other country in the world, gain by it? Why on earth would Israel have a ceasefire? Israel is at war, and there will be only one outcome. So what logic is there for Israel to stop? What will Hamas give up for a ceasefire? I mean, the idiots out there who are protesting have already overlooked the torture, raping, and mutilation of Israeli citizens, but have you forgotten those thugs still have about 240 innocent civilians being held hostage? Will Hamas allow the innocent Palestinians in Gaza to collect what they can and allow them to move out of harm's way? No. No, and Hamas had plenty of time to do this. Will Hamas recognize Israel and start negotiations for a two-state settlement if there's a ceasefire? No. How about the most likely scenario? Hamas will use that time to move weapons around, unclog some of the tunnels, and try and grab Israeli soldiers and attempt to disembowel them in front of their families now that they have practiced doing it. I'm going to say it again, and maybe this will be the last time. I doubt it, but maybe. Israel is not leaving Gaza until Hamas is 100% eradicated. Not 98%, not 99%. Gone. They are not going to leave until Hamas is gone. Period. So continually calling for a ceasefire is a waste of your time. Not going to happen. Now, once that's done, Israel will move on to the eradication of all Hamas members worldwide. They don't fucked up this time. This is it. It's the last time they were allowing that. When the U.S. went into Afghanistan, did we have a ceasefire to get innocent Afghans to safe ground? What about Iraq? Hamas doesn't give a shit about Palestinians. What was Hamas's endgame on all of this? What did Hamas think Israel's response would be? They knew there would be bleeding heart liberal suckers who would defend the indefensible. Same line, different song. Israel is by far, the United States' best and only true ally in the Middle East. And now they want to dictate war strategies to Israel? My gosh, people have short memories. By population ratio, what do you think the United States response would be if on October 7th, one day, 49,000 Americans were butchered? Beheadings, raped in broad daylight while being witnessed by other family members, burning someone alive, and on and on. Do you know what the U.S. response would be? Would Israel or the rest of the world be calling for a ceasefire a couple weeks into the United States' response? Maybe, but I also know U.S.'s position would be to go fuck yourself. Remember, these acts weren't done by a rogue terrorist group. They were sanctioned by a duly elected government. This is fucking war. And people want Israel to conduct a ceasefire and allow those cowards to regroup while Israel is slowly and methodically killing these fucking guys. So again, context. Imagine you live in, pick a state. Go visit any city near you that's around 49,000 or so. Go out, have a nice dinner, hit some bars afterwards, and get in around 2 a.m. You're still a little bit drunk, but you had a blast. Lots of smiles and laughing. Maybe even you met somebody. Nice evening. Anyway, you wake up around 6 a.m. to go to the bathroom, slight hangover, but you're still replaying in your head how much fun you had the previous night. As you walk back to get into your bed, you look outside your window and you see someone dropping your 6-month-old niece on the ground, and the person holding her chops off her head and then smiles while looking for the next 6-month-old. We don't have that level of psychotics on a national scale, and yet now we want to tell another country how we should be dealing with that level of evil. A ceasefire in this horrific conflict is only delaying the inevitable. Look, people are going to hate Israel and Jews if they stop or not, but the biggest question that we don't seem to get is a legitimate answer is simply, what would you do? What would your reaction be? And my gosh, people, they murdered 31 Americans, and we haven't done shit. 31 Americans murdered, and the U.S. has had no response. Every American in this country should be thanking and definitely supporting Israel. The Palestinian people should be thanking Israel. The U.S., and frankly, anyone who doesn't like a terrorist organization governing an entire group of people should be thankful. The idiot Palestinian supporters should wait until after the terrorist organization has been removed. Then they can start bitching about what type of government is going to replace Hamas. I truly, truly, truly do not understand the positive outpouring of a terrorist organization that is on the terrorist watch list and that the United States of America has also recognized as a terrorist group. Anyway, let's say the United States was, a week into a ground campaign. Yeah, 1 week. And countries around the world are demanding the U.S. to stop retaliating against someone who just eliminated the entire town of Glenview, Illinois. I'm confident in saying the U.S. would quietly and calmly tell those countries to put into perspective of what happened on October 7th, I picked some cities in the U.S. that has the same ratio with the murdered civilians in Israel. If you live in one of these cities or you happen to drive through any of them, please know that as you look around, those people would have been butchered, raped, burned alive, or any other heinous act you can think of. And these cities now have a population of 0. After only one day, 0. The ratio of civilians in the U.S. to those in Israel is 36 times, meaning in population, Israel is 36 times. Meaning the United States is 36 times the size of Israel. I used the ratio of 35 times just in case someone wanted to bitch about the number. Anyway, Bedford, Texas, gone. San Luis Obispo, California, gone. Gainesville, Georgia, your whole city is gone. Niagara Falls, New York, eliminated. Coral Gables, Florida, bye. Mansfield, Ohio, gone. Gone. The cities, population of the cities are wiped out. If some cities were slightly over 49,000, the ones I just listed, I used the lower ratio, but if you feel free to round up with the killings of all the dogs and cats that Hamas did. Cities, well, but that's just one example. How about some of these prestigious universities, that we've been seeing all these protests on? I'm going to use Harvard as an example, since they seem to be getting the most coverage. Now pay attention. To the naive, misguided, and misinformed students at Harvard who have rallied and protested for Hamas, I have an assignment for you. Boston and the surrounding area have a lot of top-flight schools. Since there are loads of academia near you, this shouldn't take long. Okay, here's your assignment. Your assignment is to go get a head count of every student, not some, every, at MIT, Brandeis, and Suffolk University, and then finish back up at your school, Harvard. Please feel free to talk to any of the students, introduce yourself, share a meal with someone, tour the dorms, grab a beer on your, when you're going through these campuses, etc. It's not a race, so take your time, enjoy yourselves, make new friends on their campuses and yours. Now, this assignment might take a year or two. Regardless, it's very important, and you have your assignment, and I know how competitive and intellectual Harvard is. So, when you're done and you add up all your numbers, your head counts, this is what you'll get. MIT has 11,476 students. Harvard has 22,947 students. Brandeis, 5,945 students. Suffolk University, 9,101 students. Totals, 49,469. Using the population percentage, every one of those students on those 4 campuses are gone. They're dead, murdered. And don't worry, when you go back and check out all the universities you just did a head count for, they'll make sure to leave all the bodies lying around for you to clean up and double check the number. So, comparing apples to apples, that's how many Israelis were brutally and torturously murdered on October 7th, 2023 in Israel. By the way, some of the other campuses around the country, like Stanford, 16,914 students, dead. Columbia, 31,455 students, dead. University of North Carolina, 29,469, dead. University of Pennsylvania, 24,806 students, dead, murdered. So, ceasefire? No. Thank you.